I do have one announcement at some point before the call ends.
Okay, well, you could make that announcement in the beginning here if you want.
Okay.
Because I know you've got other calls that you jump to, so.
Go ahead, gatekeeper.
Hi, this is the gatekeeper. Good evening. This is the Matrexit discussion group. I want to announce a disclaimer of the group here. The information provided in this discussion group is for educational, entertainment, and informational purposes only. Please keep in mind everyone's individual circumstance or situation is different and may be subject to a change based on various thoughts and opinions. It is up to every individual competent person to do his or her own research and homework if they feel elsewise. The broadcaster and host of this discussion group cannot be held accountable for any material shared. We are mere messengers and sharers of this information to help others. We want this group to be about thought-provoking information to accurately help educate and inform those who may be unaware of certain topics discussed. Conclusion. Information discussed is not to be construed as legal advice. If you need legal assistance, please go seek a competent attorney. And I will bet all the money and property I have that no one can find that competent attorney. So, well, all else, I'd like to turn this floor over to the hostess with the mostest. Go ahead.
Oh, I'd rather be a host than a hostess. I mean, come on.
What's the mostest?
We just got the mostest. Yeah, you know, and also to follow up with the gatekeepers, you know, description of the group and what we're doing. You know, I try and tell people a disclaimer that you rarely hear from people is that whenever you hear anybody talking about the Freeman movement, see, free man on land, whatever, whenever you run across this, I advise you to run screaming, okay? This is the truth. This is the facts of what we've been placed under. And when you start getting into
muted,
we are all responsible for our knowledge. And so with this knowledge, it's going to be for you. This will become a lifestyle. It's going to change the way you think about everything, the way you look at everything, and hopefully the way you treat each other as well. You know, because many, many people who have gotten involved with this really are living it. There's repercussions. We've got a guest coming on tonight that's going to talk about some of these repercussions that happen to people. And we've been seeing things that the corporation's been doing, you know, not just the death of Lavoie Finicum, but even prior to him, situations that have occurred. And all of this is escalating. Things are coming to a head. And we were told that the end times was similar to the birth pains of a woman. All right. And I think those birth pains are getting stronger and stronger. I think these negative forces out there are starting to feel the heat. They're starting to feel the heat and they're starting to react to it. To this constantly. All the way up to the level of the CEO of the corporation, of the President of the United States, who is seeing this occur. And so we all need to prepare for it. And it's all the more reason to really dig in and really comprehend what is going on. Here tonight, we've got Audra on here as well as myself, Brian Parker, and the gatekeeper, and Johnson is on here with us, the common law judge. And Judge Johnson, you said that you had some information you wanted to bring out in the beginning here?
Yes, I had a conversation with Judge Ronnie Davis of Florida earlier today and have invited him to be on Wednesday night's Judge's Marshals call. He should be able to show up about 10:30 Eastern time and give us a brief on what he's got going on, how he's going about it, what he's doing, etc. And give him probably an hour, hour and a half, including questions and answers to get that accomplished and hopefully wrap things up by no later than 1 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Eastern Daylight Time, that is. And the equation, and look forward to that taking place. Thank you very much. I yield the floor.
I recommend the calls, not just the Sunday night call with Judge Brewster said, but also the Wednesday night call that Judge Johnson's going to be hosting now. Davis is a firecracker. Yeah, I would, and if you're going to be listening to the Wednesday night call, drink any coffee ahead of time. Maybe even pop a Xanax, all right? He will get you riled up. He will get you riled up. And trying to end the call by the time that Judge Johnson wants to end it by, that's not out of fear of too many people in the Q&A mode asking questions. So in relation to trying to shut up Judge Davis, because this guy can go. He can go. So, yeah, I'd encourage everybody to check that out.
What I want him to do for a bit is to go.
Yeah.
As a dialogue, as he sees fit, and bring whatever he wants to bring. Don't really necessarily want to shut him down unless he pulls an Eric.
Yeah. Wow. No.
And I don't think he will. When I talked to him today, he struck me as a very humble man, a man of Yahweh, and enjoyed my conversation with him, as brief as it was. It was probably less than 10 minutes that I talked to him, and just look forward to have him bring what he can bring. Hopefully he won't bring a terse tongue to the equation, and he'll just lay out what's supposed to be, how it's supposed to be, what he's doing, why he's doing it, and how busy he is. And I know he's hopping like a jackrabbit. Firecracker. I mean, we need firecrackers in this. If you have too many guys like me in the equation, you don't get much done because we're still aiming to correct our status. He doesn't really give a hoot about that because he knows who he is and can, like Judge Byfield, stand on that. And they don't have much room to work with. Byfield. Well, I'm not Judge Byfield. I'm Judge Johnson. And Judge Johnson wants the argument over before it begins. I want them to really see the authority when I hand it to them and realize any test they throw at me, I'll be able to field it by the power of the Holy Ghost. And above and beyond that, I want them to walk in the building. It's a building again, not a foreign vessel on dry dock. But with that, I yield the floor.
Well, and I think that is absolutely a good segue. We're going to be bringing in a buddy of mine is here on Florida. Let him talk about what's going on with him. And, I totally agree with Judge Johnson. This should be done, or this should be over before it starts even. We know who we are. We are the authority. In Jim's case, coming up here, I claim victory ahead of time. For naming a shoe, I claim victory ahead of time because the authority stands with us. I hear you laughing, Jim. So, you know what? We're all going to sit back now, and Jim, I'm going to let you roll. Go, buddy.
Oh, goodness. Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate it, Brian, and all the rest of you guys. It's nice to listen to you and be among kindred spirits. God, I don't know really where to start. I just want to warn to a lot of people that even whether you're a firecracker or not, and most people know that I'm not, I get a sense of humor and sarcastic, and those who have seen all the tapes and stuff that I've done over the years, is really not to stir things up. It's a solid and lasting peace in this world at war. Right now, I'm involved in a little bit of a case, so and believe it or not, I'm working with an attorney, and there's a reason why. Normally, for the past year, I haven't, and until recently, I realized that one of the whole foundations on what I'm doing is that I brought an attorney in before we did anything. Natural defense, called reliance upon counsel. For those, I'm sure there's a lot of material out there and people who listen to me and all, and I get a lot of well wishes and stuff. For what it's worth, not trying to stir thing up or attack anybody. I've done a lot of the foundational stuff about correcting the status. We've got the name change stuff, but understand my intent from the very get-go is that the remedy that we seek on this is here before us. It's in the law and in His law, our Father. I had a major transformation happen a while ago, years ago, where, at the ripe young age of 38, I had amassed millions in fortune, and I was playing the game of commerce. At it. And in 2005 to 2009, the real estate market went down, that all turned upside down. It had me doing some soul searching. I found myself actually a lot of stuff happened all at once, where not only did that triggered my wife and I splitting, my wife of 25 plus years, I had to find forgiveness, which started a path a friend of mine, Boris, who was studying with. Great guy. So many guys have heard his stuff, I'm sure, and all his materials that I am some dude. We were doing some things and he kept saying over and over to me that the only true pleading, the only true remedy is forgiveness. Real deep thinking on that. And I realized here I was fighting cancer at the time. And for those who have been through the battle of cancer, there are some very lonely moments where it's you in the mirror and Yahweh, our Father, or you in the mirror until you realize that you're not alone in this. But through deep prayer that I realized that I had to forgive. On this is I'm not so much of a firecracker, I'm a forgiver. And forgiveness has been a blessing, and it has been a remedy for me. My heart to, I don't want to go into the details of what the ex-wife had done. Let's just say that there was a lot of, she had hurt me physically, financially, and emotionally, taking my child before we'd even had, moving from 2 minutes away to 2 hours away. And it was a hard one to swallow, and it wasn't until I actually forgave her at that moment that I realized I'd beat the cancer. So I've been on a forgiveness kick. And even though I am being persecuted politically right now, and I'll get a little into that story, my persecutors, I have to turn the other cheek because they're afraid and they know not what they're doing. And so I forgive them in advance. But still, this is my path, my cross to bear. Part of what I learned about 5 or 6 years ago, going through losing a mass fortune, being through about 8 foreclosures, how to win foreclosures. I know that, my father, Yahweh, puts me through these challenges of adversity so that I can learn and better myself for the next chapter. To really cogitate on the fact that here there are, in this world, there at the time, there were about 9 million homeless people in the country and about 14.5 million vacant, abandoned houses with people just leaving them in foreclosure and walking away. And I realized that that's a really screwed up, when you put those two side by side, that's really screwed up. We really, I got to be able to do something to house the homeless. And, houses just decay and fall apart. There's nobody in there to care for them. Carrying people in there way below market. This isn't something I did for commerce. This is something I did to help out on this planet. So as a lot of people know, I offered a lot of help and consulting and teaching on winning foreclosures. One of the strategies that we had with this, that we would contact the owner of the house, send mail, contacted us, of course, to not get in trouble violating anything. I would ask them, I teamed up with a friend of mine who is an attorney, and all he does is fight the banks. He's just a pit bull for the Federal Reserve Banks, never deals with individual man or woman who might carry paper or seller finance or anything like that. But the holes, we were finding tons and tons of institutional fraud. They were prosecuting on fraudulent documents or lack of documents, and when they produced documents, they were obviously doctored or they didn't have a bona fide signature on it, and the courts were still trying to proceed with this stuff, even though we were able to help people make some substantial wins or not losses along the way. We were able to, if I put the people together who were leaving and abandoning a house, and out of the rent I would give some money to the attorney. I don't get in the middle of someone and their attorney, so that they could fight this battle, cut off so and it would go the other way to the owner. So instead of walking away empty-handed, they had something, and we had someone in their house. The people who didn't really make off well were the banks in the situation. And recently I've come to the awareness that, or Jesus, as people know him, that rabbi and carpenter guy 2,000 years ago, the Jews and Pharisees put up a lot out of that guy, danced circles around him, but they kindly lost all hope and care on the rule of law when he started flipping the tables of the money changers in the temple. And I think that's kind of what earned me the wrath. And that's probably why I'm being now dragged through the ringer the way I am. Case that I'm involved with, and I word a warning because folks, in the final times, in the final days, people out of the way who are educating and learning, and I warn everybody, Brian, I love you like a brother, but our teaching, I know that you're on a mission. Just understand that in these final days, what's going on. A lot of the paperwork, a lot of the stuff that we did in fighting the foreclosures, although the attorney would things on his end as a trustee of the property held in trust, a lot of times I would come in and the attorney wouldn't. He would, he would chuckle and applaud me in practice, but of course he wouldn't put his law license on the chopping block, or put his own neck on the chopping block to do some of the stuff that we would do in that courtroom. Other people do in their cases. But I think that I wore out my welcome with the banking. So we have this case, and just understand that I have full confidence that we're going to go and we're going to win this thing, and probably a quiet, unceremonious win, but nonetheless a win. Where my partner, my best friend in life, and my life partner at the time, Lisa, she found herself in a position where she was about to become homeless. One of the owners of the condo that she was living in had decided to put on the market her bike on the way to my house every day and go by this old, dilapidated, falling apart house that had it basically had fallen to ruin and disrepair. And she kept going by it. She says, "Why don't we write them a letter?" And so I wrote letters to this. And unlike about 90% of the letters we'd write, it wouldn't come back undeliverable. It was being received. It was being received. It was being received. But all indications were that the property was abandoned. It was clear that neighbors that you said that they had chased out, he's in there doing drugs or whatever. And, so it was really being abused and falling into disrepair. And we said, what can we do? To my attorney friend, I said, we've got a problem here, is that getting our mail, but they don't care enough to even respond. This abandoned house is just falling apart, and it's like an eyesore and a cancer in our neighborhood. Nobody all the neighbors around the area, an atrocious eyesore. Let's contact them. And after several letters not getting returned, when I talked to the attorney, he says, "Attorney, first understand before anything happens, because my intentions are pure. I don't want to deprive anybody of their property. There is no case, and I think that's ultimately the part where it's all going to fall apart." We contacted this attorney. He helped me draft a thing called, not a lease, but an agreement for tenancy and possession. A quick claim of sorts, but basically, it said, "Look, this house is falling apart. It's dilapidated. We'd like to help make it a better place. We're going to have Lisa move in. Proposed to do. We're sending it for 30 days. This is a letter he crafted for us, and I said basically Lisa's going to move in, and she agrees to maintain the property and keep it up and make it habitable, and get rid of all the liens, and not liable for anything that might happen, and for any of the stuff that we're doing. We just want to protect the building and help. And in the meantime, Lisa, while she's living there, can turn it into a home, no matter what condition it's in." And he said, send it by a notary, which we did. We had a notary serve it, Secretary of State, and we waited for 30 days, like he instructed. We called him on day 31 and said, "Yeah, there's been no response. There's been no, they've been in it." And by their silent assent, he said, unless they come forward. And we put in there too in the agreement, we said, look, if at any time that you don't like what we're doing, or you don't agree to this stuff, or you just want us out, or you want the use and the benefit of the property, just let us know. We'll walk away without any contest. We don't, we're here in peace. We just want to do good for the community. Our intentions are pure. After 30 days or so, when we called him up, he instructed us. He said, "Well, if a door is locked, you can't enter the premises at all." Well, there was a door. It was actually not just unlocked; it was slightly ajar, probably where the junkies got in and out. But it had not been secured, so we went in with a video camera, and the place was a wreck. It had carpenter ants. It had whoever was in there had demolished stuff. Someone had taken out all the fixtures. There was no kitchen sink or no kitchen cupboards. The place was a wreck. The pool had evaporated. This 16,000-gallon indoor pool that was downstairs had evaporated into there was a little puddle of spinach stew, we called it, down at the bottom. And we took the time to seal the pool and pump all that stuff out, and we cleaned it out. The first thing we did after going through and videotaping every step of the way to show the condition when we walked in and to document this, he said, "Move on in, change the locks. You've got a home until someone shows up." So, again, we're following the attorney's instructions to a T. We're doing everything this attorney told us to do so we wouldn't get in trouble with the law or with the legal community, as we all know. But we don't want trouble with anybody, so we're trying to do things by the book, by their book. And the first thing we did, now, so understand, here we go. We have one attorney who guided us through the whole process since before the beginning. So this is not only this document is valid by him because he helped write it. It's also, it's reinforced, and the whole process was supported by him and instructed by him. Then we went to the water company to turn on the water. Come to find out that the owners had walked away several years ago and abandoned a $1,500 water bill. They had not come back with any intentions to ever pay. To my knowledge, they never did. I talked to the water company, and they had me come down with the agreement for possession and tenancy. I went down with Lisa. Showed them the document, and we have on the record, on their documentation, that county attorney of Morrissey, a guy that worked at the water company, had reviewed the documentation. Yes, it is a valid document, and we have right to possession. And we negotiated. He wanted me to pay the whole $1,500 bill. I said, "Well, we really don't have that, and we didn't use that water, but I'm willing to make a good faith payment towards that," which I gave him half of that, roughly half of that, and I never expected payment in return. We agreed again to our agreement for tenancy and possession. We agreed to do it to the T. So now we have two attorneys that agree it's a valid document and there's a valid right to possession. Months had passed, and we were in communication with the attorney, and we were asking him about, he was the one who notified us that there was an underlying foreclosure. And we said, "Well, what's the status of foreclosure?" He said, "Well, no one's showing up. It's just moving forth by default. However, Lisa, as a tenant, you're a third-party interpleader. You have standing. Let me go bring this agreement before a judge." We went before Judge Groove. And Judge Groove took one look at it and said, "Yep." He ordered Lisa to be a defendant in the case with possessory interest, the third-party status. So now let's count it. We have two attorneys and one judge agreed it's a valid process and it's a valid document. Even though I lived around the corner, I spent quite a considerable amount of time over there. I mean, she is my best friend, and I worked out of there and hung out with her and ate many meals there. But I never did set up residency per se, even though I had a place to crash there. And, Brian, you even visited it, didn't you? Hello?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, I visited it. From what you had done, it wasn't a dilapidated place anymore. I mean, you'd done a lot of work there.
We had done quite a bit of work I made a lot of funds go into that house to make it a pleasant place for her, even though the windows were rotting and falling out and the major structural issues. And there was termite infestations in carpenter ants. I mean, we were constantly battling the elements, and plants were all dead and dying, and plumbing issues and all sorts of mess. But we made it her home as best we could. And I stayed with her. And so after about a year and a half, we got our first visit. Now it was from, and this report, all these reports are all on the public record. 2 sheriffs showed up and they said that, they asked, hey, they were responding to investigate trespassers or squatters. I think they call them squatters. And I said, well, we're not squatting. We're here legitimately. And I showed them, they stood at the door, and I handed them Lisa's agreement for tenancy and possession. And they looked at that. And I handed them a copy of the water bill that was over a year old, and showing that we had been there for quite some time. The attorney's card, who represented Lisa in the matter, and this is a civil matter. I guess you guys are okay. Record, it turns out that the bank, a representative for the bank, had instigated had asked the sheriffs to investigate, and they had and they went back and told this guy, no, it looks like there's no crime involved here. Everything seems to be fine, and if you want them out, you need to evict. Little did they know if all they needed to do at the bank, or if anybody had come forth and requested the use or possession or wanted the property or anything in any way, we had made an agreement to walk out peacefully. Controversy or contest anything. All we have to do is just, say they want it, somebody wants to use it or possess it or something like that, and we'd happily walk away. But now let's count it. We have 2, and this is all germane to the case that's going on. I mean, there's now 2 attorneys, a judge, and 2 agree that we're there and we have rights to possession. And, the attorney representing Lisa was in there making offers to the foreclosing bank to mediate, see if we could work something out with them. I mean, we're caretaking the house during this process. Mediation hearing, and we're sitting right there when we got last minute notice that no one else was showing up. So, we were in good faith. We were doing everything we can to do the right thing. Foreclosure finally, after a couple of years, finally met its end. She put on the door. Rather than, ask for cash for keys or fight to stay or anything like that, when someone said they had a writ of possession, hey, someone showed up and wanted possession, fine. That weekend, we moved out. But that was the end of the story. Moved on. It wasn't until September 11th of 2015 that we were out and about, and suddenly lights go on. They slapped us in handcuffs and cut us away, saying they were arresting us for money, for grand theft of a house. Which I thought, this has got to be a joke. Now you got to understand, in these final days, even if you do things right, they're going to do whatever they can to stir stuff up. Understand that the banks and the courts and the state, everything, they have an unexhaustible supply of resources. I don't know whether I'm right or wrong, or if I'm at peace, or if there's legitimate possession or anything like that. They can bring spurious charges and snare you and drag you in and just spank you real hard. Because again, when you flip the table of the money changers, the bankers get angry and they're going to have their way with you, because it costs them nothing. But they're going to make sure that it costs me plenty, and it has. This has been going on for a number of months. It turns out, we find out that there's a list out there. I have a friend who works in a congressman's office. We've got, I hate to say friends in high places, but, well, I guess it's high if you consider it it's a high throne. Anyways, we've got good people who love us and care for us, that want to remain anonymous, looked into the matter and found out that there was a list out there, and somehow we had been citizens. Now, I assure you that I know that's a code word basically for a domestic terrorist. And when I found out, I thought, Brian, you know me, anybody who knows me knows I'm a man of peace. I'm a peacemaker. At very worst, the whistleblower deserving of protection. I'm not by any means any sort of terrorist. You know, I guess you're a terrorist if you're helping people learn and opening their eyes to what's going on in these final days in this day and age. It seemed like we're on this list. So our first thought is, well, terrorist or an enemy of the state, then they regard you as a combatant, which everybody knows that I'll walk away from a fight before I get involved in a fight. I thought, well, how do we remedy this? And I studied with a friend of mine, Boris, who had a number of people that had some success doing surrender and capitulation. I thought, well, that's interesting. Army Field Manual 2710. It's available online, AFM 27-10. We took that thing and we did a word search for the word surrender, right? And it does say, I think it's either paragraph 84 or page 84. I don't recall. You can look it up yourself. But it said something about the proper party is the local municipality. If that doesn't tell you right off the bat that municipal corporations and the way that the structure is that we're already under martial rule, then nothing else will. I mean, the Libra Code is clearly in place, and I've sworn by that for years now, and I know it to be true, having grown up on a military base. I understand maritime jurisdiction, and I understand the remedies in there, and the objective is I'd love to be, since I'm just here to aid the sick and wounded on the commercial battlefield that we all were born into without anybody telling us that a war is going on, that arguably the Civil War, or whatever you call it, the invasion of several states by the District of Columbia is still in place and is still going on. The Appomattox, I kind of diverge a little bit, but Appomattox really was a laying down of arms. It wasn't a peace accord. So peace has not broke out yet. To check that, the United States has been at war and constantly renewing this status every single year, and I don't think it can afford to live in a state of peace, which is, I guess, what I'm pursuing, and probably why they regard the peacekeepers and peacemakers as a threat, as a terrorist. In my arsenal, and forgiveness is my only real weapon here, other than knowledge. So anyway, so our attempt is, and Brian, you may remember this, I did go to the local municipality, and I talked with the city attorney and the head of I know a number of the local police who thought it was just, they were flabbergasted because they had gotten a private memo sent around by the sheriff while warning them about me and Lisa that we're sovereign citizens and, be cautious. And they're likening me to the I don't know how they put me in the same category as, dangerous people.
Did we lose the call?
Yeah, I think so. I'm here.
Yeah.
Still here.
I'm messaging him right now.
Fantastic story.
Just paying the taxes on the property taxes on that house during their efforts of inhabitation.
That I don't know. I'm not sure how the taxes were being held. From everything I saw going on there, Tim and Lisa picked up the ball on the whole situation, and we're taking care of things from that point moving forward. So,
If nothing else, if they had been completely and totally, absolutely abandoned in all capacities, then there should have been property taxes, as a corporation always does, and put it up for auction and all that neat stuff. It should have been removed from whomever had it before in that manner.
Hi, this is Jim. I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know what happened. I'm talking away, and you guys couldn't hear me, so I just decided to call back. And you had a question too about who's paying the taxes in the meantime. Good question. I'm not exactly sure, but my understanding is that the lender, to protect their interest from being superseded by a tax lien, normally the mortgage company, the lender, pretender lender, or whatever comes in, and they keep the taxes current. But I'm not sure of that. I just know that that's usually the process here in Florida. Any other questions, or can you tell me where you stopped hearing me? Because I know I blathered on for a little while.
No, I messaged you about within 10 seconds after you dropped off the call.
I'm here. Where did I drop off at?
I'm trying to recall exactly what was being said.
Well, okay. Let me just say that we were going into surrender mode. The local city didn't want to do it, and to exhaust our administrative remedy or exhaust our remedy here, we tried surrendering all the way up to Governor Rick Scott for a road trip, where we actually carted our happy butts right up to Tallahassee and sauntered our way into Rick Scott's office, where we were met with wide-eyed bewilderment and people not really knowing how to do it, but a quick blow-off. They wouldn't let us talk to anyone, wouldn't let us go anywhere. We left them the appropriate paperwork. We said we were here to surrender, and that we gave them the, surrender the person in conformity with the Army Field Manual, and, seeking the protected person status. They can give us whatever documentation. The resolution should have been innocent passage, safe harbor, and quiet use and enjoyment. Yeah, I'm not here for controversy or war, as you guys know. I'm a peace person, and want to be. I don't want to be heard as one side or the other on this battlefield. I'm just here to aid the sick and the wounded. So I was thinking maybe I'll walk away with a big white cross, a red cross on a white shirt or something. We went in there to surrender. Well, they didn't want to take it either. Which gives me notice that perhaps if they're not willing to accept surrender, then I guess I'm not a sovereign citizen, which I'm not. I mean, they don't recognize me as one, and that's been corroborated because recently, and when I did beforehand check, made sure, and certainly I'm not on the terrorist list or a no-fly list or anything like that. So I think there's some local vendetta going on here. Now we come to find out later. Okay. I've gone into court. I've gone into court with I've done the DBA and all going through setting my status. Folks, when they want you, then none of that seems to matter. I did stave them off for a number of months with this, and they put me in front of the chief judge who gave me some tips. And I think one of the remedies might be something to do with probate. We can talk that a little later about name change and probate. I do have for those who want to help me study this, I do have the transcripts that I bought of this wonderful conversation with the chief judge. It was very, very informative. But of course, he would not give a judicial decree or declaration to allow me to go into probate court, walk right next door and take care of matters. So there's a couple of thick stones that are probably left unturned. But and we went in there with a DBA. I went in with Lisa with a DBA. I think it was from Minnesota, and we had it registered with the Secretary of State in Florida as well, showing Lisa and myself as co-name holders in upper lowercase, and the name of the entity being the name on the birth certificate in all capital letters. That's not a silver bullet either, folks. And they turned and they said, look, they said, we don't care. They ordered Lisa, they were going to cart her off and put her in contempt and take her out. So she went back behind the bar. I figured, well, what the heck? I even let them know when I stood there. I said, look, I'm here on behalf of that matter. I'm making a special appearance in my limited capacity as a third-party DDR leader, merely to protect the entity of which I am a registered name holder according to the Secretary of State, your boss. And they said, look, we have someone who is file the report. So there's a man with a claim. I said, well, bring him forth. They said, and they're trying to reach right through. They said, we don't care what your name is. You can be John Doe. It doesn't matter. You're the one that we're coming against. I don't care about his name and this and the other. I said, well, there's been some sort of mistake here because it seems like your paperwork has that name all over it. I mean, it seems like we need to do a correction of the records. You guys aren't going to proceed with a mistake on your documentation, are you? Well, we looked at the swearing. It's kind of interesting too because the investigator was a sheriff, and the sheriff it was very ironic because he had come to the door and we had told him, when he came, he said he was investigating a matter, and he actually happened to have a copy of the agreement for his hands, and he asked if I had one of those. I said I certainly don't. He says it's Lisa's. Lisa wasn't around at the time. And he said, so were you going to try to take over the property? I made it clear, no, we have no intention of ownership or anything. We're only going to, we're willing to leave if anybody ever comes forth with a claim or a desire to use or benefit or anything like that. We don't want to jeopardize it. We're just here protecting the property. We looked at I told him also, told him the number and name of the attorney handling the matter if he had further questions. He never once contacted the attorney. Can you hear me? Did I lose you again?
No, you're there.
Okay. He never did. He was very selective in who he would talk to and who he wouldn't. And he had never gone to, even though he works in the same office as these two other sheriffs, he never made mention of their report when they came to the property, determined it was a civil matter, not a criminal one. He didn't ever he did look at the electric bill, which was in the all capital letters name that my commercial entity, but he had never looked. Apparently, if he looked, he never put it into the record about the water bill, paid the previous owner's abandoned water bill. I mean, by all estimation, it's abandoned. When the investor came also, by the way, and asked to investigate squatters, the bank said that they were the owners and protecting their owner interest, which I thought was interesting because the bank title, they weren't on title. And I don't know what repercussions there are for lying to an officer to get an investigation going. Never did go check with the water bill to see this other attorney with the valid statement. The officer, which I think is kind of interesting, it does bring rise if we should choose to move forward with it in federal court with the Title 42, is that the officer, under color of law, with an expectation of being reasonable, we would expect him not to lie under oath. He did state for the record that Lisa, that none of us were named as defendants in the foreclosure, which is not true. And he never did buy it. So he really went all the way around and went out of his way, apparently, to only gather evidence to build a fraudulent case against us, turn out, and to make our lives a living hell. They played games with. When I went before the chief judge, I went in there basically because they were forcing us both to have public defenders, or the name to have public defenders. They were forcing the whole thing, and I went in there in my private status to the court, informed them that there was no contract that I knew of, unless they could produce one, and there was no consent. Didn't need a contract. The fact that a man is pointing the finger at me, them jurisdiction. I believe also that I may have stepped in by going to the attorney, but you would think that if the attorney is, he actually has produced an affidavit for us to put in at some point, basically stating it came to me beforehand. I put together the documentation. I instructed them to do everything. I gave them legal advice the whole way through on moving in and everything to do. I defended her. I did it all. I. This was some sort of grand theft case. They would come with charges against him as a ringleader. I did and ignored him entirely. Even if his advice was bad, it still shows no mens rea. There's a total lack of ill intent. No time ever intended to hurt anyone, damage anyone of use or benefit, or to misappropriate. If you go look at the definition in Florida of grand theft, it has to do with use, depriving one of use and benefit. If, like I said, in the agreement, we offered the use and benefit if anyone ever steps forth. Our intent was just to decaying, decrepit property in the neighborhood, people harmless, and if anybody wanted it, we'd walk away. We hadn't have a problem with that. So that brings us to the present day. They even, I found myself at a point where I have an attorney who's by the issue. Got a brilliant. It was kind of interesting. His paralegal has taken the effort to look up everything I've ever done on the internet. And her eyes now are open. So, by God, I pray I'm a blessing to her in what we're doing. She has a lot of questions, and she sees some stuff. She seems to think that there's something that can be remedied further using something about a security in the UCC. Back away from using the UCC for a number of reasons you may have gone over in the program, but she seems to think that there's a completion that can happen there. But my point is this: there's number one, they can win. I don't know if they do or not. Is that they sure as hell can run me through the ringer. Part with fear. Do that. Fear, and where there's fear, there is no faith. Without faith, and I know the Holy Spirit is alive and working well through me, and this too shall pass. And perhaps, this is also a test and a challenge. My temptation in the desert, and sapping me of resources. I blessed that I know that. Put out a nice site to help me raise. They've completely tapped everything I have, getting rid of cars or whatever I can because, depositions have to happen, legal fees have to happen to make this stuff go away because I am dealing now. And a lot of the people are going to be really upset and unhappy that I've gone down that road. But then again, I did go to an attorney beforehand. We'll see what happens there. But nevertheless, I know Boris put together a site. If I can mention it, did you want to mention it, or is it okay to mention here?
Oh, absolutely. Go ahead and mention it. I believe I've shared it to the group already.
To help Jim and Lisa. HelpJimandLisa.com. He set it all up so that I'm wringing my hands with him, and I go, I know the Lord will provide what I've got. I helped him out in the past with pull together. We found an angel investor that helped him deal with persecuting him a year or two ago. This is a brother of the Spirit, and he's helping us to what's going on in this frivolous, really malicious to run us through the ringer and try to fill our hearts with fear. And again, in advance, if anybody should find it in their heart and donate generously to what we're doing, I wish you great blessings and, whatever we can do. But in these final days, it's almost as if they don't really care about the rule of law. We found out some friends in a congressman's office. I have some people in the Washington level who looked into this and said, what appears to happen, and I don't know if it's conjecture, the local DA is getting ready to retire and has a hard on and there is quote unquote from them order from above that there's a list of about the top 10 people in our county that they want to put on ice, take out a commission. I'm willing to go private. I really have avoided. I've got a lot of people asking me, when am I going to do another talk show, or when am I going to be on involved Quest or on your show. I mean, this is my first time really coming out of the. I don't know if I'm going to do it again. This may be my last public, but held off with a lot of this stuff going on. But basically, appears that from on, and I don't from orders have come from above, and I don't know how high above is. Indicating, it seems, people that are doing things right. And as they're going through their, as the clock is striking 12 and the old day ends and the new day is beginning, they're afraid of burning in the ashes and the phoenix rising, because they're the ashes and they have faith in the dwindles and to the mass of the sinking ship of state. You know, there, we just got to restore it and bring it back to life. It doesn't, we don't have to go through, so of course, but it doesn't have to be violence in the streets, and I pray it doesn't. I don't want to see sisters in flames and death and mayhem. And, you know, the scripture is pretty clear on, and anybody who can watch the rise and fall of civilizations over the millennia pattern. And, you know, you can see the rise and the fall as people apostate and fall away from the Creator, and that their government reset itself. And anybody who doesn't learn from it, they're going to repeat it above it. And I pray for everybody. I pray that we all get through this. You know, just a little. They've singled me and Lisa out. Made examples of. I think what they want is for us to crumble, but I'm not sure that that's what my Creator wants me. It's not, so I have no intention of doing that. Really, that's my story, and that's where I'm at. And I just want to be a good watchman. Ezekiel 3:17. I've got a watchman that when you see danger on the horizon and people falling away, and to see what's happening, and I come to you as a watchman. Message that it's rattling swords at our gate, and the day is at hand for the trumpets, because here we are when a good man with nothing but peace and forgiveness in his heart is being dragged out and made an example of. You're wrong. I'm not saying I'm a second coming, but the parallels are just very uncanny to 1,000 years ago, and just need to wake up and realize the times that we're in.
You know, Jimmy, and you've mentioned several times coming at this from the peaceful standpoint, and peace is probably the biggest enemy to war, and they want to stay at war, whether it is, you know, globally or whether it's in the hometown. They're in a state of war, and that seems to be the only language they know. Peace is the biggest enemy.
You know, and forgiveness. If you go and you look at the dictionary, I tried to look it up. Blacksmith. I have a copy sitting here. You know, they don't even have the word forgive in there. That tells you who's. That's a. You know, and I quoted that in court when I said, well, you know, I don't believe I've done anything wrong, but if I have, forgive me. And if you guys are making a mistake against me, know that I forgive my brothers too. Forgiveness in this court. It was kind of funny too, is kind of interesting. When I went before the chief judge, quiet little room, he and I, he spoke on other levels, and I listened on those other levels so I could go back and study. Woman judge was downstairs, and I stepped forward, and for that matter, my third party capacity protect the attack against the commercial entity registered to me as name holder. I'm here as name holder. There's nothing special about you. I said, wow, okay. Came out of nowhere, 8 bailiffs came out and surrounded me with their hands on the guns. Me, no, said, loving man, and violence is not in my vocabulary. It shows me the fear in their hearts. And she even mentioned, she says, I know how you think. You know how I think? What do you mean? Sovereign citizen. I said, whoa, 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 whoa. Where do you come up with that language? As far as I know, that's in terms, there is no such thing as a sovereign citizen. I mean, it's maybe a code word for terrorist or something, but I assure you I'm not.
Sign it.
What's that?
Sign it.
She resigned. She wouldn't. She kind of changed the subject and moved on. They say that she, which means there's a prejudice there, and they're still moving forward with a prejudice. And boy, oh boy, anybody be careful that, if you're going to be slandered and put on a list where they give you that label, they want to slander, and people that can quietly forgiving and moving forward because they don't understand. The mistake I made is the minute that we need to go see, well, how can we anybody questions, comments?
I do want to mention, if somebody does want to come forward and lend a hand here, what's the best way to contact you or to do that? And also that site to the group again, aren't members of Tactical Sovereignty that they can contact you?
Well, I know that, again, they can, I use the email Jim at beachhousejim.com with 2 H's. Email to Boris is also responding to the emails that come into info at and lisa.com. The info at, it goes to his email. Is there anything that comes to him there, he's going to talk to me about it. I am concerned because I know that anything in their courts, anything I can or say will be used against me, but I pray that I hope has not been misconstrued by anybody as anything belligerent or destructive or anything. I just want good for all people. I want an honorable resolution. To those, and I'm sure they are listening, if what they want, I'm sure if maybe what a lot of people in their community, foreclosures or helping people fight foreclosures or any of the other talk shows or any of the stuff that I've done where I'm talking about stuff that's working, understand that all that's been done in my pursuit of the truth and they're doing the right thing. Anybody. Finally, hello?
In Colorado Springs. I'll boil this down to a punchline. Want a honorable solution. They don't because they're not.
Okay.
Corporations are inhabited by folks that are mostly amoral to begin with. Even those brethren that do work for them by policies that are amoral and by virtue of things. One is the connection to a certain entity in Rome, and another one is that the whole situation is under 8, 9 kingdoms of this world under Satan, which is where the municipal corporations, not Yahweh's. Yahweh only has one of law, and that's the Torah. And while still being in part engaged. The animal sacrifice department has ended with Yeshua. Parts of it have also ended, but not all of it has ended. I've talked about Rob Skiba before, Skiba, and his research through the Torah and other folks' research through the Torah. Festivals are still engaged at this point for seed time and harvest and things of that nature, which are still going on. We still got farmers out there, etc. Situation, you want an honorable resolution, they don't. Why we have massive foreclosures in this country is because they're gaining profit, ROFIT, through seizing and removing the inhabitants of that place, because all they've got is, at best, and even that's slanted against them, to put it mildly, at worst, the mortgage. At best, I'll manage to do the deed situation. I know of a guy here in Colorado that paid his house, that discharged his house completely in the 12 USC 411.
Yep.
And they
40,
still.
No, it's 40. I think it's 40 stat 411, 12 USC 9582, but whatever. Go ahead.
USC period, whether, all the way up to even 500 section for that matter. And they still sent him a letter of foreclosure. Said, yeah, you paid it off, but we're not going to issue a deed. We're going to take it away from you, sell it to somebody else, and make more money.
Let me, if I can address that for a second. Now let's talk about the benefits to a corporation, because a corporation cannot be sustained. We're looking at an $18 trillion. They know that the end, and they must think that it's near, because they know they're creating out of thin air is unsustainable with derivatives on derivatives on derivatives. So let me address this on a commercial level. So, in the system that are threatened by it are the ones who don't understand what it is that we have been doing and the stuff that I've been teaching. The whole we have taken and bonded and given the whole account, the birth account, to the treasurer for full acquittance and discharge. Basically, now we're working off of corporations also understand the plus and minus column, the assets and liabilities column. By working, actually spend debt out of existence by the way that we're doing stuff. What we do is that we stop them from their own self apps, where they're doing it to themselves, and I know they're due, but we can actually work that debt clock backwards to realize that by depositing depositing into the trust our full faith and credit, our lives, our life, our fortune, and our sacred honor. We become part of that original created under the Declaration of Independence. And we can bring that back by putting it all in, like basically using warehouse receipts. And when you're in the military and you create debt or in debt, you just present what you need and you put everything back into the kitty. Do you guys follow what we've been?
I do to an extent. Would bring is this Vatican system in circulation as such, being gold, silver, platinum, or whatever else. That's a private of substance metal.
Right.
There being no substance, the only thing that's backing up the system, as it were, in the public mindset capacity of mostly in that matter, but on the private side, the certificated birth certificates, marriage certificates, and other certifications, and bonded items of that nature, which essentially turns the living man and woman unlawfully and everything else you can dream of on that capacity. And the chattel, and on the whole, therefore the debt doesn't exist in the first place. It's a ledger entry. up by anything of substance. It just exists because somebody with a supposed authority, every time there's a mortgage issue, there's new paper or electronic created for that mortgage or that borrowing or that whatever, as in a fake manner, in a totally unsubstantiated capacity. Millions of dollars, regardless. Has a spot in her book. I don't know if you've seen her book, Judge Anna Von Wright's. She authored it as Anna Maria Reisinger, The Day of the Probable Cause. She has a one that just about took my eyes out of my head. This for a long time, that that zero balance is reached every night. That's the reason why that bank accounts are never closed on the private side. They're just closed on the public unless the bank itself is closed.
So it's transferred over to another pretender lender.
Yeah, well, yeah, that. But open or stay open in the private for set-offs and ledgerings. That there's a $25 trillion corresponding $25 trillion credit. But it's at that point that as long as they've got to pretend to hypothecate the U.S. Corp and their junkyard dog, the U.S. military, can run this ad infinitum so long as there's something to hypothecate. Of having debt, a numerical situation, which we look at and we freak because we think there's something behind that, which there isn't. It's just numbers. By numbers fairly easily. When you get a trillions and quadrillions, it gets to the point where we're just going to look at it and say, yeah, whatever.
I'm over it. It ceases to have meaning after enough commas and zeros.
Yeah, when you get up in that neighborhood, it doesn't have meaning anymore because it's just on until whenever. I wanted to bring that to the table, that there is no debt because there is no substance.
You're going to do all of this with an attorney, is that correct?
Well, let's say that we're doing on the back end. There is some stuff that I want to. Seems like there's a couple of gaps in my paperwork that I'm trying to iron out. I have to talk with her about the UCC. I've got to see what that is with some type of security instrument. She says, well, you have the DBA done. You got to do the name change, and she suggested also putting on registering a service mark. And,
yeah.
You know, but still understand you is known me for years and years on this stuff. I've been diligent in making sure that, and I'm, ready to stay in the private, though it's like they don't. All these people who think that there's a magic bullet, oh, I'm going to register DBA, oh, I'm going to put on a UCC, oh, I'm going to authenticate the birth certificate. I've done it. I've done the birth certificate. I've authenticated. It's myself authenticating because it was born on the soil in Germany. So, and whether there's proper nationalization, but I don't see where I ever took an oath or ever became a U.S. citizen. I certainly didn't. I don't think it's physically possible. None of that. I have to say that if anybody's been diligent, eating, sleeping, and breathing this stuff, I don't do a 9-to-5 job. I don't squeeze this in after playing with my kids. My kids are grown and everything else. I have been devoting myself to the Lord's work, educating myself and straightening my affairs and my status about it to a point where I have seen a lot of positives coming from it. I think part of it is because I've been educating. I've been my perspective and a lot with that given the times that we're in, anymore, and protected by some authenticated piece of paper or something you filed in some office somewhere. I mean, the stuff we're doing, even though we do it, it's that are in offices that are going out of their way to ignore the paperwork coming in. I mean, I'm sure it's all over where acknowledge it, they can't do anything with it, they ignore it, and they probably put it in the sovereign citizen file, you know, the circular metal container. Yes, whether they acknowledge it or not, I've done it. My status is correct, and it's probably hampered their moving forward for 9 months, although I do realize with the way things are going, I fall to my error to even call my foreclosure attorney friend. Nevertheless, traverse. But it's become abundantly clear to me over the months, thing I'm doing or saying, there's a bone. I'm not going to say that word. They have an agenda, and I'm on a list. And the attorney, when he found this out, he was like, "Wow, we can make this thing go away." He says the only challenge is that you're on a list. And so, but I have confidence. You know, when it boils right down to it, my intent. And in fact, you know, everybody in their system, like I said, I mean, count them. There's 2 sheriffs that all agree that my process is right and we have possession. And how can someone come in and say we're denying a use and a benefit? We're trying to appropriate. We have no desire to own or take out loud. It's not like it can tuck it into a concealed pocket and walk away with it. You know, there's no real theft. It's a facade. I really have more and more. I'm thinking this is just a temptation to cause fear. Prey on it. I'm just going to proceed in what I think is right and not be afraid.
That he can charge you with theft that you actually had lawful possession of it.
Again, they haven't even acknowledged that evidence. We've got to, you know, I mean, part of it is too, I know that they're probably listening right now, and so maybe they realize what they're about to get hit with, but they can go look it all up. Attorney Joe, he says, "Dude, I've got your back." I said, "You're an attorney too, or you're an officer of the court. You're going to sell me down a river, are you?" And he goes, "There's anybody who knows is a peace-loving gentleman, and if that's where I hang my hat, that's where he's going to hang his hat." What's that?
To mind is have a vested equity in the property because, like, you improved it. Mentioned
Absolutely.
That occupying the abandoned property prevented further vandalism of the home. So
that's a very good point. Not to mention that I probably dropped at least $7,000 in buying sinks, toilets, cupboards.
Oh, those,
you know, I mean, I brought in bug guys. I mean, the termites in one bedroom were so bad that we had to actually shut the doors and seal it off with plastic when they started swarming. It was wings. It was terrible. And
that's a lawful claim. If you say
it is. It's called lis pendens.
Do at near the end of the foreclosure case, judgment and everything. The attorney did put in an Admiralty Maritime possessory clean. Full Maritime possessory lien, just to basically protect. Because Lisa was a party. She was the judge when we went in there. Actually, Joe, my attorney, he went in there with a motion to make me as a co-tenant, necessarily a resident. And they said, well, he's not on what they call the lease. And though I'm not sure lease is the proper word for it, people keep throwing around a lease, but a lease really can't be a unilateral contract. A trust document can be. I can be a trustee and come in to protect the beneficiary's interest. I have no intent in being a beneficiary or getting a benefit from it. You and taking care of it and protecting it. We were there 24/7. So we weren't taking anything. And again, all the paperwork from their get-go, we were clear. I mean, there's statutes they're operating under for grand theft. You can go look it up. I don't know the numbers, but a lot of statutes are online. There's two there. They look for depriving of the use and the benefit, or unlawful. I'm not sure the word. Our way to get for an agreement for tenancy possession so that we could take care of the property, legally appropriate it. And really, at this point, if the attorney comes forward and says, look, I did the paperwork, I told him the process, I gave him every step of the way, you know, he's willing to accept the burden of the fact that I'm surprised they didn't bring charges against him unless he's just a brother of the bar. Their own. It clearly shows reel in all the people that as the world is opening up its eyes to the days that we're in, stepping first through and speaking out loud and pointing the way to the open door of light, the kingdom. Shut that door and silence anybody who's pointing that way.
Well, be that as it may, so I pray the blessings of heaven over you in the name of Yeshua, through you in the name of Yeshua, and that you do what you do by his leading and for his glory, and I yield the call.
My brother, the Telestai. I'm probably destroying the Greek, but let it be done. Amen. I appreciate your well wishes and your blessings, and thank you, brother. Next.
This is Brian. I was thinking, Jim, talking about, you know, the different people do different paperwork, they get authenticate, you know, they're not going to pay attention to that. I totally see where you're coming from on that, and that's exactly the line of thought that I've had for quite a while as well. Thinking that, you know, maybe this needs to be taken to the next level. Because, you have that done. There should be a level of protection there. The living man, having had that by the federal level, you know, so to like the Federal Housing Administration. Well, your boss has signed off on my protection.
That's great. I appreciate understand that if anybody wants to come and help me together and explore some of these other avenues to assistance, right now, understand I'm in a bit of overwhelm. It's a struggle just to get done in one day all that I need to do. You know, I hope I haven't been remiss, but I know I've worked weekends straight through without taking a day of rest, and I know, sorry, God, but I haven't. You know, this has been a 24/7 kind of battle for me. So I'm open to different ideas. The other thing is I have a friend. He's talking about that this is also an international crime. These people that are doing this for in this to get the promotion, to win the brownie points and all. Basically, someone who should have protected status. I know that ready and willing, just daily 9 to 5 or 8 a.m. till 10 p.m. whatever it takes to bring this into international court. We've got now that are under color law issues too. I think we've got about very cut and dry actions because of a tort damage. Possessory right is an interest that's now, been damaged, and everything else. Actually, they've milked me. It's cost all my leftover savings in life, but I had about 25 grand and my bank account's empty to do the research and the paperwork, and attorneys milked me dry, even though he's representing me. I think it's like there's an avenue in equity in terms of, he was talking something about the international courts that you can't have members of the corporation gain and profit. So I think we might have some violations of the treaty at Ghent. He was talking about there might be conventions, national remedies, and he's ready and eager and willing to do this on behalf of the people, and suit that way. I hate being dragged into a fight. I don't want to fight. Cornered, I'm here to defend the man, living, breathing man here. To defend that with love and honor. I'm here to God's property. I'm not a sovereign citizen. I may be a citizen of a foreign kingdom. My sovereign is, the Father Yahweh. I know who I'm a servant to very, very well.
What I think is, I hate to say it's funny. Talk about unintended consequences. Biggest difficulty that I might be facing right now, is being on this list or whatever, and upset that you were turning over the tables of the money changers. Really, what on you? All of this and going through this, exactly how they're operating and their shortcomings are. Even more information is going to come forward. This is all said and done with. People are going to learn.
So I realized that maybe in my quest to go into the private, by staying out there and helping other people, money changers, by teaching and everything else I do, is like there's a remnant of me still with a foot in the public. If that was riding that fence is a difficult one, as most people know. All you guys here on this call, because again, this is all public. And believe me, before when you asked me to come on the show, it's with great apprehension. I delayed it for at least a week to really give it some thought about whether I should even come out into the public again, and to stay private and go private and just disappear into the surroundings and do the Lord's work. So, but I think also it gets back to being a watchman, and I do have an obligation to my brothers and sisters out there that enter the final day. Fear not, you will be challenged. Tearing of the garb and the gnashing of teeth, and it's going to be kind of scary. It kind of is when I realized that loving forgiver like me in jail and said grand theft of a house. I was like, oh, really? I wasn't chuckling. It was like, I did that I was programmed to respond with was fear. Here we go. Dragged into something I didn't be involved in. If this is the lesson that they're trying to I try to take away a learning from everything that happens, because I know my father puts me through adversity, to make me stronger for the next challenge that he has for me. So I try to take away, well, what is it that I'm really supposed to learn from this? And again, I think it's that you got to do the right thing regardless of what you're facing. You know, everything in their world is an illusion. Of the boogie monster, you've got to stick by what you know to be right, and that's that my father. I have this prayer every morning when I get up, and I say it with meaning. It's not something I just regurgitate. I thank my Father that I have another day to live a life in His name. I said, Lord, if you would, let's do your deeds. Let my feet, let my back carry your burden. Fill my brain with your thoughts, and let your words spring from my lips. And Lord, please give me the grace and dignity to get the hell out of your way. Amen. And silly, no, I fall short all the time, but it does consecrate my day. And so I pray to be a blessing to all you guys, to everybody who's listening to this. I is not to consume and to take, and to give and produce, and to continue. I'm able to do that.
I absolutely think that you have been inspiring and inspirational to others. The gatekeeper, bringing up the lines. If anybody had any comments or questions for Jim, so
yeah, I don't know how much time I have to do that, but I'll sit here for another. We've been on about an hour and a half, so I probably have about 15 more minutes or so. But I'm willing to take questions, and I'll do my best to answer them. Or if anybody's got some new bits of advice,
Unmuted.
Because I may. All right.
sure. How are you doing?
Good. This is Brian with an I. I just want to thank Jim for coming on this evening. I want to sincerely thank you for all the work you have done with forces for the last 2 or 3 years, and it's really helped me to come to an understanding of become peaceful and not become belligerent, and how they've turned in peace into being belligerent onto their fraud. But thank you for what you've done. And the only other thoughts what I had is first the question of attorney, but then I think you answered that with you're still riding that line between public and private. Give us what we've learned from you. We're intending to eventually return all Caesar's. Like, I just safely want to return all that. And so the question at first was like, well, why would you use an attorney? Everything you've learned, everything you've been teaching, this process with an attorney, which may compromise your position.
And that's first of all, thank you for your kind words, and I'm every day I'm reminded that I humbly grace, and I thank you because I know I'm doing my job. You see, the thing is understand that when we were helping, our original intent at the beginning of all this is to help people together. And the rest of the world isn't going to sit and listen to all our tapes and study boards and stuff and, go that deep. We're trying to help the homeless and help, and these people that are just walking away from their houses care enough. They're walking away empty-handed and they could give a damn. So that's why I had to team up and bring in a attorney who fights foreclosures, who was receptive to the idea again, because they're not going to go this route, they're not going to do, expatriation and all this other stuff, or, you go ahead and some of the ways that some of the other people have taught out there. Houses, our goal is not to necessarily have them discharge all that stuff. Gather homeless people and found a vehicle to do that, but it did involve an attorney representing the person walking away. In the middle of their thing with their attorney. Came to our case, the fact that I had been working for several years with a receptive ear, an attorney who understands and what we're doing. That probably was my first traverse by going to him in the beginning and saying, what ideas do we have? What can we do about the owners of this empty property? My best friend here had, how can we put her in one of these? And came up with the solution, but the original traverse into their whole little web. I don't know. We've saved a lot of homeless people, and we've protected a lot of decrepit, falling apart buildings. I've been real happy about it, because the longer you prolong a foreclosure, you remember, he throws in a couple pieces of paper, they have to pay for 8 hours worth of legal fees, and at $300 an hour, at 8 hours a month, losing $2,400 a month. You fight a foreclosure for 5 years and have a roof over the head for 5 years. It costs the banks. And I really have had no remorse about that, because banks are fictions and they get bailed out by Obama. Whatever. They've got their remedy too in the world of fiction. But it's the threat to them. They really don't want me going in and helping people and educating people and doing what I do. And to answer your question directly, I think that was my original traverse to attorney to begin with. So therein should be the remedy, should be therein that there's no mens rea.
Very much so. I mean, I think building off of what I've learned off of both of you and Boris, and going on to listen to others and piece together other puzzle pieces. The consensus opinion is don't ever use a lawyer, because they compromise your standing. But again, whether it's a mistake, again, I think you'll learn the higher lessons. You'll be your next lesson will be taken care of. The thing that I think the clue from the judge and probate seems to be another in my study and bouncing my ideas off others. Whatever that little strand that's still holding out there must be held. It seems to be held in probate somewhere, and can we come in with those golden scissors and cut that last thread by invoking equity in that probate court? We don't know. I mean, I've learned from many others. I'm a student of many others, and it seems like many of I'm going to use the air quotes, gurus, are all facing the same battle. And again, we all know it's a spiritual battle, and so the toughest battles are those on the front lines. And my thoughts and prayers will continue to be with you, and if I can, I will try to send some funds to support. I want to thank you, and I don't know. Again, you're on the front lines, and again, the stuff that I'm learning from you, I'm still probably 2 years behind. You were doing and what the intention was. Is years ago, I was looking at real estate and thinking about adverse possession, and describe this. Like, well, isn't this an adverse possession? You've done everything by the book. It's you're coming in peacefully and say, not really, it's like, hey, I'll give it back to whoever wants it, you know. You know, maybe you're not playing the game everyone else is playing the game. That, oh, you're going to get the lawyer, you might as well do adverse possession. You start doing billable hours, you know, and
well,
so that
the adverse possession requires a certain it's empty, unclaimed.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
Abandoned. I'm not sure that it met that qualification because I remember my attorney Fred said we can't go down that path and for 4 years or something, not 7 or whatever it is. So in possession, if you go read the document that we borrows greatly from it, you know, that we're going to keep it from liens, we're going to protect the property, we're going to secure it, make it habitable. We're, you know, of the stuff that we agreed to do, or that Lisa agreed to do technically, but in that document, there's a lot of the same type of stuff under adverse possession. Like I said, if anybody ever stepped forth and ever expressed an interest in the property, there's a zillion other empty houses out there. We'll find another one. That way, I don't need any one particular house. We want to be a blessing wherever we go. And words, and I hope I've been a blessing to you. If there's anybody out there too that has experience with probate or experience with some of these techniques, you know, and nobody who has faced the front lines done it, and they've done this, and they did the birth certificate. I'd love to hear from people that have done it, positive results. I want to hear that it's been tested. I want to hear the war story where peace story, whatever you want to call it, side and succeeded. You know, just theories. I have shot many arrows into darkness and allowed myself to be the guinea pig along this path. Fumble my way through the darkness looking for the doorknob that I can open up into the kingdom. I've fumbled my way through. I've made mistakes along the way. I've done it fearlessly, and I put myself only at risk. I mean, maybe I put Lisa at risk too, but she's at my side through all this, or was, and whatnot. We've gone through, you know, hell and high water together, and a lot of successes, and I've had failures. And I usually, before I ever get on or, you know, address anybody, there's a couple successes under my belt or something, because I never want to give anybody some bad information.
Well, yeah, I mean, again, we luckily we got to learn through your successes, and we learned through your mistakes too. And not that I view it as your mistake. Again, I think what we're all interesting at that some of the information stuff that I was attempting to do, I started incorporating some of what I was learning from you to somebody else, and then suddenly, and I think you guys are the initial ones who really pointed out the birth certificate case, and I think that's the first one that I heard of, and then I started hearing it around elsewhere, and now it seems like the last 4 or 5 months you're having these shows, weekly shows. Powers that be probably hate this. You know, the only hope I have is that the numbers aren't really that big. You know, if you look at the numbers, you know, oh, you got 1,000 people across U.S. I'm like, but maybe, you know, how quickly does those numbers start to grow?
You know, I was kind of amazed that when we came out, I was on one talk show, and suddenly there were 10,000 hits on the thing I was doing about usufruct. What was it called? I forgot the birth certificates and how to process those. Completing the usufruct. I think it was an old video.
Michigan?
It's still valid. It was a Michigan thing. In court, apparently someone says that I was filmed that in Florida, which wasn't the case. They quoted a date and everything else. I'm like, I wasn't even in Florida on that right. Yeah, that was a thing we did up in Michigan, and you know, Boris and I were like chuckling. It's like, oh my God, I'm a, what do they call it on the internet when people just start stuff, you know?
I got probably 12 of
Fire,
I
yeah,
12 of those views because I know I watched. You know, I went through everything over and over again. Again, maybe the response that we're seeing is they're adjusting, you know, from what we're learning, but learning just as fast of how, you know. Anyways, I'm going to yield. I want to, again, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I will have you my thoughts and prayers and continued support. And I know this, you will gain, you'll understand this lesson once you're through, but until that time, I know it's going to.
You're very welcome, Brian, and in conclusion, for, you know, the kind words. I thank you for the financial support. You know, you know, please tell a couple. Yeah, I mean, I'm grateful for Boris for setting the site up. You know, spread the word, and any way people can help. We'll do it the best we can with what we've got. Next.
Yeah, if there's anybody else out there that has a statement or a question or anything for Jim, feel free to jump in. And like I was saying, Jim, I think that experience is as tough as it's going to be for you, eventually give us all to what is really going on and the direction that it should be approached from. It's unfortunately that you're going to be the sacrificial lamb on this. Hopefully there's it's actually made other than the pain of learning.
Yeah, well, I mean, I know that they've already tried to get a hold of Boris. Came together and we got him out of that pickle. You know, we had an angel out the door. I put up the freeboris.com website about a year or two ago because we were at our wit's end. So private, yeah, you know, they had him naked and in a, and he couldn't call. It was just amazing to get the information out. And a couple of angel investors who had listened to a program and say anything. They had exacted certain times which were totally up in the air. And then they just basically held him captive. And we were like, well, this is bullshit. So, you know, I don't know. They're milking me too. The thing they have in their court, in their, you know, on their side, they make the money. They print it in their basements. They buy, and that's an area. If they're going to do battle and attack me, I'm commercial. I make no income. I have no assets in my name, and then that name, you know, of course, I try to stay even private and not use that name for. And so I guess what they figured is that's the easiest way to beat me. See, here's the thing, man. I have to wonder how the facts come to light when it's laid out in front of a jury. It's critical, and the attorney I'm working with knows that. But when they lay it in front of these, and like, hey, how can you say that there was unlawful appropriation of, or even a denied use and benefit when it's clearly we didn't deny it in the paperwork, and the paperwork, the agreement that we put in, by what? 2 attorneys, 2 sheriffs, and a judge over a couple of years. We acted above the table. We didn't deny anything. We acted in good faith. And we just want to be a benefit to everybody. Where's the mens rea? Where's the evil intent? How, you know, am I really such some hideous monster? Did I steal a house? Really? I really think that maybe, I'm not sure that they win or even think they can win. Drag me through hell. They're going to try to poke at me and make it cost me out the wazoo, which it has. You know, you know, I'm liquidating this world. I don't care. It's just stuff. But You know, they're trying to imprison my mind, and I don't think they're ever going to succeed at that.
You know, one of the things I was thinking about also while you were telling the situation, and I don't know, but, you know, people in your group or your think tank have gotten, you know, toward the bonds that are attached to this case. Sure.
Yeah, no. We've already put in. I've asked for FARA. You know, your foreign agents. Let's see, you're not on the website. Status to do business. You've taken an oath to a foreign agency. I mean, it's steamroller mode. Stuff. I can get all this stuff on the record and go down that path. And it's caused bumps in the road, and it's just pissed them off more. And but they're bad. That didn't work. You know, where's the stuff that worked in the past? Given up on. They realize that they just have to put their heads down and ignore everything and barge forward to screw with me. And I'm concerned because I happen to know my friend Boris is on the same list. I had my friend of mine who had said 10 key people in our county that they're trying in the next year. They have a mandate to try to put us on ice. So I'm on it. I was number 2 and I was number 3, and at the top, I told them, brother, watch out, because they're going to stop at nothing, and it doesn't matter what you say or do. This is a steamroller. He's confident the right thing's going to happen, and he's doing what he can on the back end to help people, you know, and in his mitigable fashion, you can do it that way. I pray for him. I pray for his well-being, and no one. I hope no one finds themselves in the situation that I'm in, facing a steamroller that's not slowing down. But I also pray that, you know, that people do the right thing. Don't willingly put yourself in front of the steamroller, but when you're in front of the steamroller, they're like that these are like bullets at the end of the first Matrix. You know? You can't be afraid of the bullets. You have to know that, you know, or what is it, the spoon? Not that you bend the spoon with your mind, it's that you realize there is no spoon. See what happens. I'm grateful to all the well-wishers. There's already been a number of people that have come out of the blue and donated, and I to those, if you're listening, you know that, and sometimes, you know, since I've taken this route where I realized that, you know, having early on and dealing with the world of attorneys, which sticks in my craw, believe me, I'm not this, but even Boris was saying it looks like that's the front where this needs to take place on. I'm not real thrilled about it, and I'm screaming, because to make that happen, boy, it is all about commerce, and it's basically built to milk me dry. So commercial resources I have. So I just want to extend a great thank you. Thank you to everybody who wishes me well and has contributed to this, you know, very challenging. Thank you very much. I'm humbled.
Well, you know, we're all very humbled to, you know, be able to lend what support we can lend as well. And at Free Boris site out here, you know, whatever. I was one of the people that contributed to it, and I didn't really know you guys from Adam. I saw on the internet, but I hope at the end of this, what it's going to do is it's open our eyes, and it's going to be a teachable, and it's going to opposite of what they're actually trying to accomplish.
So if I am being put out on the front of the sacrificial lamb, remember, I'm doing it all for all you guys. You know, I mean, the war is not It's not between me and then some guy who's in a position or anything like that. This is a battle between principalities happening on a much higher level. And when you look at me, I pray you just say, "There, but for the grace of God, go you." I hope what I do, if it is going to that open door, if it does blaze a path, I pray you're quick to walk through it.
I do agree. I think that as much as people, they hear the word attorney and, whatever, I hope that that is actually the key to this situation. Only did the people of the bank that you had sent the letter out to, you sent a notice to acquiesce to the judge and the sheriffs and these attorneys. They all acquiesced as well.
I was talking with attorneys, says, look, if you're going to fight this thing as, from your perspective, they've seen the tapes, you're going to go in and you're going to do this stuff. You know what? You was a cuckoo bird. He says where the hope is, because all these people, remember, you're not, the jury is not going to be a bunch of your audience. The jury is going to be a bunch of people that are mortgages, they're enslaved by the system, and most of them are going to be sheeple with their eyes closed. Hear and understand, though, is that a judge says that it's legit, that two attorneys say it's legit, that two sheriffs say it's legit. We're going to address it on that level. All this peaceful inhabitant stuff that you do, it's not even going to come into court. And how he's doing it, I understand the battlefront, but believe me, I'm gnashing my teeth. It took me a long time, and really I had some heartfelt moments. And even talking with Boris, says, dude, your traverse was a long time ago. The battle was created here, and that's where it's going to have to be won. And as much as I did everything else with my status, reaching right through, it's just almost like it's almost like Smith reaching in through the telephone and grabbing Neo and the Nebuchadnezzar. It's hand doing in here. But I really don't think that they can win. I'm wondering if they even think they can win. Once this evidence, they've ignored all the evidence. They've ignored the two attorneys. They've ignored the two cops. They've ignored the judge. They've handpicked everything. Put all that stuff into the case. My guess is what they're going to try to do, something, temptation, is that can't afford, at this point, they're risking, if they go, oh, this is a mistake, if they drop it and walk away, now their butts are wide open for a tort damage. And if I'm commercially oriented, I'm going to take them to the cleaners. What's that? Well,
Yep.
let me be abundantly clear. Getting vinegar poked in his open wounds. You're causing me a damage, you bastard. What he did, it was a huge test, and he turned and he said, they know what they do. Forgiveness is the ultimate. Some people are going to say, "Oh, you dumbass! That's your weakness. You don't go after him to show him a lesson." Fine. Forgiveness, and this is a big test of my ability to forgive. If they go ahead and I've got an obligation because I followed my father's law. If they're going to come and repent and walk away and say, "Oops, I'm sorry, we made a mistake." The ultimate pleading is mistake, and the remedy is what? I've got to forgive them of their trespasses. And it's mine. This is the highest law there is, man. For what it's worth, thinking from them. teaching. This is a teaching for me. This has been a learning experience for me, and I come away greater for that. What I want to do is say, look, I would even expect them once they wake up, was listening, and they know my true intent. This. What I imagine happening, and this would be the answer to my prayers, is like, look, anymore. We're going to set you up so you're out of the whole system and everything. You'll get that 5-star red. We'll give you the documentation. Just please be quiet and go away. Then I know that my job for the Lord has been done. My job here, you guys. If they want me to go private, go anyway. We have a deal. So I'm going to go out there and whoever's listening, pre-approve that offer. If that's the offer they want to come with me, fine. I'll let bygones be bygones. Please let me go private. Drop out of the whole. I won't be a bother to anybody. I'm not going to. I don't care about commercial stuff. Mainly when I went through the whole cancer thing, is that the stuff of this world is insignificant. I made millions in real estate before I was 38, millions in assets. I've made millions and lost millions. You know what? I like to say that, well, there's a passage about a rich man entering heaven and camel to the eye of a needle. But ownership is pride. It comes before the fall. And when you put your name and attach that name to stuff, that name out of pride, a leash, and you're not on the side of the leash of ownership that you think you are. Giving everything away, I turn it into the government. You know what? You really want it, you can have it. You own the Social Security account. It's yours. Your whole title, that name. I'm gonna lay my claim to the birth certificate, to that birth account, to and for the United States for full acquittance and discharge. Too. You know, have it. Have it. What else can I give you?
Yeah, you were talking about forgiveness, and the situation you were faced with several years ago. Visit from somebody who claimed.
Yeah, I get asked about that a lot. Yeah.
And I don't know if very many people here know that story, but that really boils right down to the essence of and your answer to him and what the result of that was.
Same thing. I forgave the judge if he felt like he trespassed against me. True intentions in nature is heard. They threw me in jail wrongfully. You know, I with the name in court. They said, we don't care who you are, John Doe, whatever, you go to jail. Yeah, I was like, civil or criminal, just take that guy out of here. For 3 days, they kept me in a hole for 3 days, almost 72 hours a day. And I'm not going to repeat the whole story, but yeah, I was visited by Men in Black. I learned the law, and well, you know, if I was going to go back after the judge thinks he's trespassed against me. You let him know I forgive him of his trespasses. He's my brother. Okay. If he feels I've trespassed against him or his courtroom, would he likewise also forgive me? That day, they had me out on the street that night, and that, if nothing else, intentions are pure. It's not about my bondage, and it's not about my stuff, money, or whatever. Me on the commercial battlefield, without some of those dead presidents on papers floating around, and incidental to my intent.
Did anybody else have a question? We've been on here for a while, so any questions or comments?
It's been about 2 hours, so anybody wants some final questions or comments, now is the time.
May I?
Sure.
I'm just wondering on this if anybody wants to give a comment or feedback on it. I think probably most of us out here, if we've dealt with the courts, have run into the same thing, and even I've run into situations with various people outside of the court situation also. This common thing where they just ignore everything. The tool that they and I'm wondering, what if we just start to call them out on it and plainly state, but you are ignoring what I just said. In this fact, or you are ignoring this, and call them out on it, do you think?
I've done it repeatedly. It seemed to work a lot better 5 years ago. Now they're quick to change the subject. Bring it up 3 times. See what they do with it. But it seems like they're becoming impervious to that. You bring it up and say, "Excuse me, for judicial noticing of this, let's talk about that." They glaze over and they go into ignorance or rationalizable ignorance.
About that. I mean, this is where they seem to be steamrolling us over, and there's got to be something that we the people can do about this. I mean, it's like so simple yet so hard, if you know what I mean. We need to really start thinking about it. I think, as a whole, to forgive their ignorance, I don't know what else to call it. It's difficult.
Justifiable ignorance is the only way you can really call it, and it's hard to. I question. I really don't know if I have an answer to it. I thought I did. Their skin is growing thicker to it. It's almost like artificial intelligence. They're learning that if they do respond to it and acknowledge it, they're toast. They have nothing else they can do but tie their blindfold on tighter. That seems like what they're doing with me.
The head on the nail there. Maybe they really are artificial intelligence. Maybe we should ask them so.
They're in the habit of just not answering questions. Now they do the asking, and I'm turning around. Well, they ask me a question. I turn around and answer a question with a question. The questions in here. You do the answering. I said, "Well, excuse me." I said, and I'm not clear on the definitions and the words you're using. Some answer regarding whether it's true or not, or should I give you questions on it? That.
Not like anything specific.
Nope. They're doing their 9-to-5 job and they want their pensions, and it seems just what they do. They're not used to questions like that, and they don't really. And they know that if they do answer my questions, I went in one time and put him in jail. I said, "Wait, what are you using that name for personal identification?" Yeah, and he's like, "I'm not answering any of your questions."
You knew me. Treat them the way they treat us, and if they ask us a question, just play dumb, ignore them.
If anything I answer, does anything I answer, can it be used against me in this court of law? The right to remain silent? Ask some questions. I mean, I'm full of questions. I'm like a 3-year-old kid. We entered the kingdom of heaven. I have nothing but questions for them. They're learning not to even touch my question, not answer me. Go down there. We're not here for that matter. We're here for this matter. I enter a plea if I don't understand the charges against me. Enter a plea. We'll enter one for you. Self my attorney under protest. Practicing law from the bench. Oh, they're fire, they get angry. I don't mean to make them angry. I just really want to get the answers honestly and just move forward and settle the matter honorably. In the best of all interests.
Well, they have if it goes in a way that they don't like it to go in, but it's like, it's okay, we're going to go in this direction next, you know. And I mean, that's what they've done with me. They never even, oh, it's terrible. But anyway, you know, experience is if they, you know, don't like the direction it's going in, they'll just lead it a different way, topic, you know, in another direction or whatever. But I don't know. I think we need to just start thinking on it a little more to see what we can do, because everyone that I hear talk always says the same thing. They just ignore this, they ignore it, they ignore it, they ignore it. And so there is something to this, something to it that we need to pay attention to, ignoring this stuff.
Yeah, I think so. Thank you.
If we could ignore them as well, but it makes it kind of hard when they're the ones holding the keys to the cell. Yeah, but there's got to be there, and you know, I think it's time that this de facto organization that's a servicing company running everything anymore, you know. But this has got to be done on a whole individual basis, but this needs to be done.
I think, you know, we really can't hold hands and march through the door of the kingdom. I think really that we all come to that one at a time. Doors one man, one woman wide. And, you know, I just pray that I leave the door open behind me and as I'm stepping through. Oh, there. I don't know. I think all I know is that there's a door that's a knob. I'm trying to get through it right now. Maybe we all have our own door. Who knows? We're all on a different path.
I think this is just about a wrap. I really appreciate you coming on, Jim. You have somebody have one more question?
Thanks, Jim, for coming on. It's a great story. Thank you so much for sharing it with us.
Well, you're very welcome. I said anything back. Let God be my witness. I really, again, I come as the watchman and letting everybody know, take heed. When they start grabbing and holding us to the fire, you know, again, I'm thanks to Boris too for the website. I really grateful that, you know, I've done so much to help him out, to help others out. That in my time of need, coming to help me out, it's humbling. And I thank you, everyone. Thank you. Hello.
Yeah, I don't have a question. I just have more so comment. And, you know, with this, I pray that it gives you a little bit of guidance and, you know, it helps you do a little bit of. I have this Bible app where it gives me daily verses. Maybe I should read scripture more than just every
I have one of those too. Go ahead, please do.
It says here, today's scripture was 1 Corinthians 3, verse 16, that you are God's temple and God's Spirit lives in you. That it touched me today when I read that, and you know, listening to you talk, I see that you know you're a noble man, and I respect 100%. May God bless you with everything that you're trying to do. My thing is because as long as you know that you live in God and God lives in you, of course, try to do what doesn't matter how stubborn they try to be, they can't anyway. Thank you. Yeah. And a small piece of my personal experience, you know, with this court case that I've been going through for about a year. When I first went going in. But the one thing that I did before I stepped foot in that courtroom was I prayed. I said, God, this is your battle, this is not mine. And when I walked into that courtroom, I literally didn't have to do anything. As much as I prepared myself and as much as I studied the law, I did not have to judge it what I needed to do. And, you know, the outcome came great on my end.
I had those moments too. Just the ante is up when you're talking about a 25-year prison term. It's not like, you know, I mean, we're not talking about a little, you know, a traffic citation or something. You know, this is they want to try to nail me for 25 years in prison over something this stupid. It's amazing. Man, I appreciate your quote. I appreciate your comments. Thank you so much.
Not a problem, brother.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, seated People's Grand Jury. Contacted like Ronnie Davis, or who else is down there, Brian?
Here, what's his name? Dudell.
Dudell.
Yep.
Yeah. I think Roger is out of the state right now, but he'll be returning shortly.
Well, please spread the word, and anybody else who has an avenue can help out. I'm open to the ideas and suggestions. I don't really want to spin my wheels, so I really want to make sure it's someone who has something solid or has a track record, not just concept and theory, but something that each road. And I'm grateful for anybody reaching out to me. I guess it's very humbling because so many people, I'm blessed that I have what I have to be able to reach out and help others, and so I'm in a very humbling position, needing help. So, but thank you for all the outpouring of support, at the .com website. Did I plug that in? I don't mean to turn this into an ad, but
no, that's absolutely fine.
And it's actually free, jimandlisa.com.
There's one for
Is it both? Okay.
Yeah, it's free, jimandlisa.com, and we are free already. So I got it under help.com.
I like that.
Yeah. I just pray that I'm doing the Lord's work. I just want to make sure the Lord's work isn't in helping people inside of jail for 25 years. You know, I like helping people outside here.
I just kept thinking, as you were talking, I just kept thinking, that maybe you should, they call her MJ, the system, and she says that you can do what you want to when you're out of the system in commerce. Maybe it wouldn't hurt if you could email her.
Give that to me off the air, or I don't know if she's going to get bombarded, and if you want to do that in private.
Brian has it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't want to give out anybody's contact information without their knowledge and consent. That's all.
I think she'll be okay with that. She's given it out over the air before. I've never contacted her myself because I actually don't have an email. I actually need to get her number to call her because she told me to. But I don't think it would be a problem if you emailed her.
If she is that and she's successfully made it through, and I'm standing here, with 1 foot in and 1 foot out, knows her too, who's listening to the program, and can ask her to reach out to me. And my email abundantly plain and out there for everybody. So
I would get the email from Brian, and I would go ahead if I were you and just email her and tell her your situation, or ask if you can, just kind of go back and forth with her a bit. And I really think that you might be able to encourage you to get out of the system, and I think she might have some insight for you.
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate that. where all this is going. I've already been done and out of this. Like I said, I make no income. I have no assets.
Yeah, I know how you
So,
feel.
it's a different. It's a commitment to an entirely different lifestyle.
No.
Yeah, Audra, I'm paperwork here looking for, and I know I'll know it off the top of my head the second I see it. Just put it out there. It's been put out there into the public, so I don't know if there's a problem with putting it on here now. If you want to give it, Audra, you can just email it, or you can just message it to me. And
Thank
Okay.
you.
It's N A E S Kennick ES@gmail.com.
Peace.
If I may, you guys talking about MJ in the subject line. He needs to put in there what he's.
Yeah, true. Yep. Yeah, I will.
Other lady,
Audra, were you talking?
I was just gonna say I can send her an email and let her know that all, and she'll know your story and know what it's about.
Marie Janet on a couple of occasions, and she's very familiar with Boris's work, so she may be familiar with Jim too if she's familiar with Boris's work.
He and I have been Tweedledee and Tweedledum in a lot of cases. So we do a lot of stuff together. Yeah. If she's followed any of his tapes, I'm the guy that always sets it up and runs it and introduces, and that's usually in my role. Hand him the fishing line, put some meat on it, let him catch the lobbers. Thank you. I appreciate you reaching out to her and with like-minded people, so we can do the good work. Thank you.
that's pretty much a wrap.
Oh, was it one other person? What was that?
It sounded like there was a question about email or something, but. All right. Well, and if anybody didn't catch that email from her and they wanted to contact her, this is being put up on YouTube, and you can go back and because it's at Matrexit on YouTube. So people can share this call so far and wide and reach out. It'll reach other people.
Yep, spread the word. If anybody else can help me with information or whatever, I'm an open book. Since people have, you get a little time to help me complete any process that I have, and I've done pretty good, but maybe I've missed stuff. Embroiled in my own self-affairs for this matter, so.
Hey, Jim, I wanted to ask you something regarding this now. Originally brought these charges, correct?
And well, say, there are 3 different parties that have standing that I denied a use and a benefit or appropriated from. And I'm talking with him, and it's probably, I wouldn't be surprised if it is them. Rule and say, let's face it, they're the courts or banks. I've seen it myself. The other one would be the previous owner. Here's the thing. The previous owner that we wrote to, she died intestate. She died during the foreclosure. Her surviving widow, who was never named on title. It's very interesting because he said later he had never heard of Lisa or myself, yet he said he was following very closely the foreclosure case. Now, there's some problems with that because close to the foreclosure case, number one, he would have heard of us. Number two, when the judge awarded her tenancy, he should have protested. When the courts say we're going to honor her possession, she's now a party to the case. Obviously, he must have seen her become a party, and he should have stood up and said, "I object to her." But he didn't. He was silent. Nothing happened the entire foreclosure. So my question is, did someone come to him maybe and inspire him to stuff? Is this a vendetta type of thing from the local sheriff or the police or the judge? I mean, the legal system trying? Who inspired? Because he's the only other damaged party, arguably, who might have a standing for a use and a benefit. It's appropriated. I denied him something. The other thing is, my thought it might be the banks because they came to the door with, you remember, with the investigation. So my thought is that it's the banks. When I really cogitate on this, I first said it, I said, they're getting back at me for flipping the tables and the money changers. I don't think the guy walking away or bill, walking away from an abandoned property and keeping it up, walking away from a foreclosure that he didn't even care enough to show up. About the use of the battery. He abandoned it years ago. Yeah, well, the only other people that might investigate that would be the bank.
Yeah, I was. The name of that bank?
I don't know. It's a matter of public record. You can go look it up on the case.
Okay. All right.
I don't remember right offhand. I thought it was Deutsche Bank at first, and then it may have changed hands during the case. I don't remember. They're all,
I'm wondering if the county is picking up the probate on behalf of the deceased. That's how they're coming in. If the original tenant passed away during the foreclosure, I'm wondering if they're coming in as the probate along with the bank. And, whoever, homeboy who didn't respond.
Even if so, I don't know how the probate court, I'm not sure. That's an interesting angle. I hadn't even thought of that.
From the birth certificated person, fictitious person, if that person passed away and they have to settle things, they're like, oh, wait a minute, we have this account out of here. Check that their interest in that property is what's initiating.
Well, what is it? Who is it that actually has a loss? If he's walking away from the property and it's being foreclosed on anyway, it's disappearing out of probate a year ago, or whatever. I mean, when it did, or a year earlier, a year or two earlier, losing the house in foreclosure is still losing house in foreclosure from the estate perspective. I didn't cost him anything. In fact, if anything, I reduced the abandon with the water company. I'd improve the price. I don't see how I ever caused a loss. It's all about denial of use and benefit. He never asked to. He never cared about it. The only ones were the bank who wanted to investigate squatters. So arguably, they're the ones who might have standing to make something like this happen. But of course, they're going to go have to stir up the man and get. So I'm wondering how that's going to be when we depose him. Nice questions that I want to ask him. It might get to the bottom of who put him up to this, if at all. I don't think he did this on his own.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Because it was again, remember, it wasn't even filed against us until 3 months after writ of possession and we left. They couldn't get a fight out of us any way they could, so they've got to dig something up to make it happen. That's all. This is prosecution at its finest. It has nothing really to do with facts of the case, because all the facts point to my, I'd be exonerated. I'd be let go. Facts has nothing at all to do with the facts. Political motivation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
All right, friends. I think that's about it.
Good night.
For me.
We're on a lot longer than he planned on, and
I was expecting
I'm
to
a
be
couple
done an
minutes
hour
late.
ago.
I'm a couple minutes late, standing, so, yeah, hopefully, we see some, of this, so.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, and thank you for letting me share my story. And I hope that it's blessing to everybody out there. And those are the seniors are here. These are the final days. And play my trumpet now? Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
Great. Sign us out.
Informational in the past long before I signed it out here. Brian, of course, talked about works of putting a universal website together, if you want to say, information from a variety of places together. We have a boatload of information put out there, not only for people that are starting off with processes, but people that are getting advanced in it too as well. Or completed, but I'm hoping to get it at least started within the next few days to a few weeks. So, on Facebook, I want to have you on that. I want to make mention that Mark has given us the okay to stream live tomorrow night. I believe he has his call for up on one of the. Okay, yeah, his Tuesday night call. I guess he has some important information that he wants to pass on, some that everybody should tune into. So, live tomorrow night.
And what time?
Oh crap! I just hit the wrong button. What time was that again? Eastern Standard Time, so it'd be our time, 9 p.m.
Okay.
And then just goes up the list. Last week we had some problems, and some tell me deep down inside just to push through because there's some he has to offer. So he wants a message out there. So
For that call also, share it to the group tomorrow.
okay.
I get those in email from him, so.
Put something together for later on tonight, like, advertising of it. So, or unless you want to do that, don't matter.
Hey. You want to do it, go for it.
All right, this is the Matrexit discussion group signing off with the Monday night call. Tonight we're exiting the Matrix Part 7. Bigger tenants. Hopefully have some more information and news breaking in the near future here. It's the gatekeeper.
Night.